Today, we are diving into a company that could absolutely be a game changer for India's future, Sarvam AI. Now, if you think the entire AI story is being written in Silicon Valley, you're going to want to stick around. You're about to see how a revolution is brewing right now in India.
But first, let's just start with a really basic question. Is artificial intelligence a tool that's built mainly for the English-speaking world? The common idea is, yeah, pretty much. But that assumption misses a massive, massive part of the world and, frankly, a huge opportunity. Because get this, in India alone, this is the number of people who are not fluent in English. 1.2 billion people. These are folks who are just completely underserved by the mainstream AI tools we hear about every single day. This is not some niche market. It's a continent-sized opportunity staring us right in the face.
Okay, so let's get into this because it really brings us to the big misunderstanding at the heart of AI today. Why is it that these incredible, powerful global models from places like OpenAI and Google, why do they so often just miss the mark for the average person in India? Well, there's a great analogy that really nails the problem. When one of these global AI models speaks an Indian language, it's often technically correct. The grammar is there, but it just doesn't have that native rhythm, the cultural context, the local sayings. It just feels foreign. It doesn't get the nuance of how people actually talk. And this, right here, is the exact gap that Sarvam AI was built to fill. This is not just another AI company. It's India's first real, serious attempt to build an AI infrastructure from the ground up for India's incredible, diverse linguistic landscape. So, what is Sarvam AI at its core? Well, it's an AI infrastructure company, and they're building a full stack of tools. That means everything from understanding spoken words with all their different accents to generating responses that sound natural and human, all of it specifically designed for Indian languages and their unique cultural contexts. Now, what's really fascinating here is the team behind it. On one hand, you've got Vivek Raghavan. This is someone with real, on-the-ground experience building systems for 1 billion people. We're talking huge projects like Aadhaar and the DIKSA education platform. And on the other hand, you have Pratush Kumar, who is a deep, deep expert in AI research for Indian languages. This combination is the secret sauce. It's not just theory, it's practical, India-scale execution meeting world-class research. So how are they actually doing it? How does this all work? Let's pop the hood for a second and take a look at how Sarvam is building this tech in a way that's totally different from everybody else. Sarvam's whole approach really stands on 3 main pillars. First up is speech AI. We're talking voice recognition that can actually understand the tiny differences in Indian accents and can respond in a natural human-like voice. Second, they're building their own language models, like Sarvam 1, which are trained specifically on Indian language data. And third, they're focused on direct, context-aware translation between Indian languages. So here's the crucial point. The biggest challenge, by far, is that there's just not a lot of high-quality data for Indian languages online, especially compared to English. Sarvam's solution is twofold. First, they are meticulously gathering and cleaning up Indic data. And second, they're actually building their AI to respect the unique grammar of these languages, like how in Hindi, the verb often comes at the end of the sentence, which is completely different from how English works. Now, this is where we get to a common myth you might hear about projects like this. People will say, oh, it's just Google Translate's cousin, or it's just a better version of a translation app. But that's really not the whole picture. See, a lot of translation tools work by going from, say, Hindi to English, and then from English to Tamil. That English middle step can introduce all sorts of errors and lose the original context. Sarvam is building a full platform that enables a direct conversation straight from Hindi to Tamil, which is way more complex and way more powerful. And the second myth you'll hear is that this kind of tech is really only good for making, customer service chatbots. It's a really, really limited way of looking at what's possible. The reality is, this is foundational infrastructure. Think of it less like a single product and more like the building blocks for anything. On top of this foundation, developers can create truly revolutionary apps in healthcare, agriculture, education, banking, pretty much any sector that needs to communicate with all of India. So let's bring this down to earth. What does this actually mean for real people in their day-to-day lives? Because at the end of the day, technology is only as good as the problems it can solve for actual human beings. What does this look like on the ground? This is where it gets incredibly powerful.
Just imagine an ASHA worker in a rural village being able to explain complex medication schedules to a patient in her native Santali. Or think about a retired teacher who can get critical information about their pension just by speaking in their own local dialect to a government service. Or maybe a young developer who builds an app where fishermen can just ask for the day's market prices in Tamil and get a spoken response. This isn't science fiction, you guys. This is the real, tangible, life-changing impact we're talking about.
So, how does Sarvam really stack up against the global giants? Well, look, they aren't trying to beat OpenAI at English tasks. But when it comes to tasks in Indian languages, for understanding Indian speech, for integrating with Indian systems at a price that actually works for the local market, that's where they have a laser-focused, powerful advantage. And this all leads us to the bigger picture here. Because this isn't just about one company's business plan. In a world where a handful of giant tech companies control so much of the flow of information, what Sarvam is doing is about something much, much deeper. AI sovereignty. Just think about it for a second. The AI tools we use, they subtly shape our worldview. An AI that's trained mostly on Western data is naturally going to have a Western cultural lens. It might not get Indian legal history, or local social customs, or historical context. But an AI trained on Indian data, Indian culture, and Indian values, well, that can support decisions that are far more relevant and appropriate within an Indian context. Technology is never really neutral. And that's why this mission is so much bigger than just a single product. It's about making sure that India has control over the core technologies that are going to shape its future. It's about preserving its cultural and intellectual identity in this new digital age. It's really about building a national capability. So, what's your role in all this? Well, if you're just a curious user, go check out their website and try the demos in your local language. If you're a developer, maybe try building a small project. And if you're an entrepreneur, start thinking about all the specific problems you can now solve for those 1.2 billion people who've been left out of the digital conversation for so long. The revolution isn't coming. It's already here. And it's not going to be happening only in English. It's going to be in Hindi, Tamil, Bengali, Telugu, and in every other language that 1.4 billion people use to think, to speak, and to dream. So really, the only question left is, how are you going to participate?